Are you thinking of selling your home? We're going to talk about 3 minor upgrades that will boost your value instantly. We're also talking about Realogy's new iBuyer program that gives sellers choices and control. And 4 things you need to do in a rental property before you ever see a dime. I'm Dan Ferullo and this is Jen Fried. Let's cut to the chase. Welcome to Cut to the Chase with Jen and Dan. My name is Dan Ferullo and my co-host is Jennifer Fried. Good afternoon, Jen. How are you today?
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone.
Awesome. So it is a chilly Wednesday
It's
in
overcast.
New Hampshire. Not loving that, but alive, excited, and full of energy. And we are here recording episode 17. Did we say episode 17
I think
yet?
it's big number 17.
Yeah, 17 today. So if you're thinking of selling your house, there are Realtor Mag put out a article about 3 minor upgrades that instantly boost your value. So let's talk about those. Updating your door. Front doors, I've heard actually you make almost like 100% back on the investment of buying a front door because especially people are loving painting them in like fun colors that give a little contrast to the color of your house.
And it's that first impression.
And first impression, yes. Number 2, modernize the lighting. I personally love lighting.
Me too.
And I have Philips Hue lights throughout my home, so they.
But yours are fans. You can talk to them.
I talk to them, and they also can be any color under the sun. And like if you like one light can be one color and another light can be another color, so it creates like a really cool ambiance. Not that you need to go that drastic to to modernize your lighting, but just like little updates to some, if you run to Home Depot or Lowe's and there's some relatively inexpensive modern lighting fixtures that you can buy that really just update the look and update the look of your house and kind of make it stand out a little bit.
Yeah, and not even the lighting fixtures, but if you can do one thing and switch to the daylight light bulbs, it makes a huge difference in how warm and bright the rooms are. And as buyers go through, especially we're doing showings, even at 4:30 and 5 o'clock at night, houses that have all this beautiful natural light when we show them in May are coming across as kind of small and kind of dark, and they really aren't. It's just the way the light reads at that time of day. And so people don't have a great impression, but if you get those white light bulbs, it can really help out. And just pick whatever light fixture is your most dated. If you've got 2 that are screaming 1980s, those are the ones to swap out for a fresh look.
Yeah, awesome. And especially now that we're going to be going into the fall winter season, there's going to be lots of showings with lights on, like lights necessary to be on. So you definitely want the lighting in the house or the color of the house or the way it comes off to kind of look.
And here's a sidebar. I have noticed that buyers notice when not all of the light bulbs function in the lights in the property that they're viewing. So if they flip a light switch on and the chandelier doesn't have all of the bulbs working, or half of the bathroom vanity bulbs are functioning, they actually notice. And you would think it's the smallest thing. And homeowners, when you mention it, they never notice because they live there and maybe it burnt out 2 months ago and gosh, they didn't never noticed it. But buyers are coming in with these fresh eyes. So, just replace the stuff that burnt out.
Yeah.
And what else is in this one?
The third one, upgrade your mailbox. So sounds kind of trivial, but the mailbox is also, and actually I wouldn't have even thought of this either, but you pull up to a house and the mailbox is like the first thing you see on the side of the street. And so having one that's a little bit updated definitely helps to give a strong first impression.
Yeah, especially if the plow has abused it in winters past. Again, that first impression, letting them know that you've taken care of things at the property is really important.
For sure. All right, great. So moving on.
Ooh, I love this one.
So we've talked a little bit about iBuyer programs in the past. We had talked about Zillow Instant Offers. And lots of other brokerages mostly the big brokerages are starting to come out with their own iBuyer programs. And I think we've talked a little bit before that it's, rather that it's not iBuyers aren't going to take over the entire real estate industry, but they are a portion of them. So if your brokerage is able to get into the iBuyer program or have an iBuyer program and get into that market, it definitely helps to keep you competitive with other brokerages around the country. So
and it's a cool idea.
It is, yeah. So
the initial concept was kind of one form of an iBuyer, which is we are going to value your house at this price and you can sell it to us for this set price, and then you'll be able to immediately go out shopping for your next home without worrying about putting your house on the market whatsoever. You have guaranteed price for your home.
Yeah.
Some folks were kind of hedgy, like I would be, saying like, well, but what if I did all right on the open market? So they've kind of come up with this second option. They're calling it Real Sure.
Real Sure, exactly. And so they're offering Realogy affiliated agents, which are Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, ERA.
Couple other smaller ones.
Other smaller ones, I'm sure. So they're able to provide their home sellers with a cash offer immediately upon listing, which is valid for 45 days. So the house will be marketed on the market by a real estate agent, but I guess at any time these sellers can choose to go with this instant offer
up to 45 days.
Up to 45 days and sell their house for that value, which I'm sure is going to be a number that's less than what they're on the open market for.
But that at least give you a chance. So
Yep.
if you don't like exactly the number the iBuyer program's offering you, you've got 45 days to find someone on the open market who wants to pay more than that price.
Yep, absolutely. And also, Realogy announced another program that they've launched called Real Sure Mortgage, which allows sellers to make an offer on their next home before their current one is sold by leveraging their Real Sure Sell cash offer. So we've talked about another a startup called Homeward, I believe it was,
Yep.
that
a
few episodes ago that is doing something similar. And I think that, I mean, it's so great because that's the biggest pain for people that when they're trying to buy and sell is getting their offer accepted, because it's contingent upon the sale of their current home, and they have to use those funds. I guess 39% of buyers say they need the proceeds from the sale of their current home to fund the purchase of their new one. So that hurts a lot of people when they're making their offers and makes them, sometimes maybe less competitive. Maybe they decide they're not going to sell because they have to do that. So they're like, might as well just stay where I am. Maybe that could help a little bit in getting our inventory shortage up. But yeah, so I think Realogy sounds like they're trying to do a lot of stuff to make their brokerages, to keep their brokerages in the race for, or not race, but in the running for. I mean, with their stock price was plummeting recently with their lawsuits and the competition with Compass and all that stuff. So they're definitely trying to keep themselves in the running with all the other top brokerages, and of course they are one of the top brokerages or brokerage owners for across the country. So yeah, I think I've been hearing about a few other things that they've been doing too, in relation to like marketing and stuff like that, programs. So definitely an awesome program. Sounds like that they're that Real Sure.
Well, and it's taken me from not really being excited about iBuyer programs just because I know that the price offered is lower because the brokerage has to make some money on it.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that you at least have 45 days to get a better price than the iBuyer price, that solves my number one complaint with iBuyers.
Right.
So they've addressed the biggest objection. So I'm feeling a little bit more positively about the whole idea in general.
Yeah, awesome. So they're piloting this in a couple of brokerages, and they plan. I mean, a couple of towns. Looks like Dallas and Denver right now, and then
they should have done Dover. Dallas, Denver, Dover. Yeah, only D
very
cities.
alliterative.
Yeah.
So next year they're going to roll out. Over the next month they're going to roll out to 8 additional markets: Chicago, Houston, Austin, Texas, Tampa, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Sarasota, Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, and Sacramento, California. So be interesting to see how all of that rolls out.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are no iBuyer programs available here on the Seacoast yet.
I think some of it has to do with how few transactions we have compared to the rest of the country.
I agree, yeah.
Florida, Texas, people are buying and selling homes much more frequency. With much greater frequency than up here. So I feel like the chances to apply the program and for companies to actually make money on it.
Yeah.
The other thing is I think even cities like Chicago, you have entire suburbs that have the same style house where pricing is much more consistent. Our buildings are so different up here.
Right.
Trying to do pricing for an iBuyer is really a little more challenging in New England and in older towns. So I bet you that's a factor as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll definitely keep our eyes on the whole iBuyer program across the country, see how all that stuff is going. Anyways, moving on to our third and final article of the day.
This is a good one. I liked this.
So the article is titled, My Rental Property Makes $650 a month, but there were 4 things I had to do before I ever saw a dime. So this article is...
Business Insider.
Yeah, Business Insider, thank you. From a girl named Kelly Birch. And actually one of her homes that she's talking about is here in New Hampshire. So when she was purchasing her first home, she chose to buy a home that she knew would make a good rental later on because she knew that she would eventually want to use that as a rental when it wasn't a starter home anymore. While she was renovating, she and her husband made choices that would be appealing to renters, even though they weren't her personal style. And she used a home equity loan to buy a new, bigger home instead of selling that one, which is another interesting thing.
This is a huge idea. I think people forget that they can do this, that they can take out a home equity loan towards buying their next property. Yep. When you take the loan out is important in the timeline of things. So, you'll definitely want to talk to your lender so you know exactly when exactly
or financial planners,
when exactly to open that loan. But her 4 tips. The first one is to put emotions aside.
Which is a great tip.
Well, because it's an investment. So, more so than when people are shopping for a quote unquote dream home, this has a specific purpose. Even though you're going to be living there in the beginning, try and view it as a business decision.
Yeah. Well, and I had to do the same thing and was thinking about that when I was buying my home, that it's a business. We have to think of it as a business and not rent to people because we feel bad for them or thinking about that type of stuff. Like it's all or like she says, like using materials that she had said she loves hardwood floors, but she ended up putting laminate flooring down because it's more durable for renters with pets. So I mean, just the thought of what's going to work best in a business standpoint is a really smart idea.
Right, because think of the number of people that are looking for a rental that accepts pets versus the number of people that want a specific kind of flooring in their rental.
Yeah, right.
Marketability.
Yeah,
is
so
huge.
Second tip, choose a home wisely. So her budget, she said, was pretty low, about $120,000. But they knew that they were shopping for a starter home where they would be in for less than 5 years. But wanted to take advantage of being in the real estate market long term. And so they picked a house that would be a good rental after they outgrew it. So they chose to buy in a town that had an active and competitive rental market.
Good school district,
and one that they believed would attract quality tenants. And that's always an important thing to try to find, is quality tenants that are going to pay their rent on time, not destroy the house, that type of stuff. So so they originally thought that this house was too small, but it did check all the boxes for a great rental property. So they ended up putting an offer, even though it wasn't the ideal home for them, but they wanted to get into the market, which I think is cool too, which might be a good idea for some buyers that that we may be working with, or other agents may be working with, that maybe they're not thinking in long term enough. They're just thinking like, hey, right now this is what we want. We want this HGTV quality house or style house, but maybe it's a great idea to get into a house that in 5 years or 10 years they can rent out rather than have to worry about, or rather than trying to find their dream home immediately. Like that's it's always, we always have to think outside the box in real estate, especially when we can't find houses for buyers that are looking. So yeah, definitely good for us to think about that. Actually kind of gave me a new idea for a potential buyer. So yeah, what's the third thing, Jennifer?
Renovating for durability, not for personalization. So like you mentioned, not putting in hardwood, keeping laminate there. The house they bought was a fixer-upper. Even it was structurally sound, but everything needed updating. So they lived there for 3 years. They replaced the walls, the ceilings, the floors, and the windows. Got a bathroom, kitchen. They even did some yard improvements. But they didn't pick the styles that fit their personal taste. They picked materials that were going to hold up long term, but were cheap enough to replace if they wore out through wear and tear from renters. So they also picked widely appealing styles, so nothing very niche. Light colors on the walls, cabinets and trims, neutral. That way the greatest number of people would like the unit. They also picked, the house that they picked was one that wasn't super complicated systems wise, so when they did have to do repairs, they weren't overly complex. So they did evaluate that too.
Cool. And then the fourth thing, tapping into home equity, like we mentioned. So instead of selling the house, they were able to take out a home equity loan in order to use that as a down payment, which is really a smart move, I think. So they're paying, right now they pay $630 on the mortgage on the first house and $270 on the home equity loan, so $900 total, and they rent the house for $1,550, so we're making $650 profit. And in the much bigger home that they live in, as she says, to quote her, the idyllic New Hampshire town that they live in, they live in a much bigger home and pay $1,450 for their mortgage. So they're enjoying their home, and they're making a little money on the side. So it's investing in real estate and having real estate investments, multiple properties, is one of the best ways to grow wealth in this country. So, if you're thinking about that and want to explore the options, we can certainly talk to you a little bit about what it would look like for you if it's possible to do something like that.
Yeah, and how much to set aside for various things, how to build a budget that is realistic. Because there's stuff we think of that folks that envision the idea wouldn't occur to them just yet.
Exactly.
So we can be a help to you there.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else for today?
We have cut to all the chase. We
have. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please like us on Facebook and YouTube, and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. And we will see you next week.
Fantastic.
Thanks for tuning in.
Have a great week.